what's it going to do?
There it goes.
I've never seen that. That's insane. This is epic.
This is wild. This is insane.
Come on, you little weapon! Get it! Yeah! Get the entry!
G'day folks and cheers. Welcome to another episode of 4-Wheel Drive 24/7. A bit of a special episode, this one too. You see, we've put our heads together and as a group, well, myself, Sean, Jock, all our mates that come 4-wheel driving with us, we reckon we are experts, professionals you might say, in the field of getting bogged. We can get bogged pretty much anywhere. In every state all around Australia, 12 months of the year, you can bet that one of us will be bogged at some point. Now, getting bogged that often means you also get extremely good at recovering yourself. We have done some recoveries around Australia that I have thought to myself at the time, how on earth are we going to get out of this one? So we've put our heads together and we have come up with our 5 best recoveries from recent times. Now, we're going to count them down from 5 through to 1, and I won't let the cat out of the bag just yet, but number 1 is probably the only time in maybe a decade that I seriously thought we may have to abandon the vehicle. We'll get to number 1 in a minute. Let's start the countdown. Number 5, let's get stuck into it. Rodeo, our number 5 recovery, top of the list here, starts in Yalwal, New South Wales. Now, I love this part of the world for one reason. It actually is home to my favourite low-range 4-wheel drive track. Guessing what it is? None other than Monkey Gum. And it was on our way to Monkey Gum that we encountered an obstacle that wasn't supposed to be there. You see, the access track to Yalwal is actually a 2-wheel drive track. It was early in the morning, we were all heading out to start Monkey Gum. Unbeknown to us, a bridge had been washed away, causing a massive erosion hole, and there was no way around it. Shauno, crash test dummy, going in first.
It's not the line I wanted.
No. That's deep, that flop.
Yeah. Yes.
Where are you going?
Now, there were actually 2 ways out of this obstacle. Neither one of them was pretty. We sent the camera car on what we thought might have been the easier way out, and it got so stuck we had to leave it there because we were wasting too much time and see if we could get the rest of us through. And that's where the fun began. If you look closely, you can actually see the camera car in some of these film clips stuck. We left it there for the whole time.
Get your front end up.
Once in the bog hole, of course, there were a couple of different line choices, but none of them worked. The only way out was to go directly up that very steep bank.
I reckon we need to engage the run for winch.
This is nice. Look how accessible that is. Just grab it. You don't have to get into a bog hole and fall in. You can just go, oh.
It's going to be a hell of a winch up that.
After Shauno gave it a number of spirited tries, we realised there was no way through this except to winch our way through. And that's exactly what all of us had to do. We all gave it a bit of a try, but really all we could hope for was to get the front end up so that you weren't winching on too bad of an angle.
Very steep.
That's a big winch, Paul. Yep.
There we go, eh? That's a pretty wild winch to start the day off, mate.
Recoveries like this put a hell of a load on the winch, but the old Runba did it without blinking.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
There's no way the D-Max was going to drive this, so really I was just trying to get the front into a good position to put the Runba to work. From that position there, it is a nice straight pull. Have a listen to the strain the Runba is under. That is really an intense winch. Just got a heck of a lot steeper. Now, of course, that was a big winch, but it did it with ease. Stop touching my vehicle. Even Jock, despite wanting to drive that obstacle so badly, called for the winch on his first attempt. Sensible too.
Almost. We'll just winch from there, I think.
We all thought Jocko might have actually had a crack at this, but the winch was always going to be called for.
I'm jiggling!
One thing that did come of that bogging, however, and of course subsequent recovery, was that it caused quite a ruckus on social media. A whole bunch of you got together and proclaimed that you'd driven it before us or after, I can't remember when, and you didn't need to winch one vehicle through. Well, I've never seen any footage of it. I'm not saying you didn't do it. I just haven't seen any footage of it. And I tell you what, if you did, would have been one heck of a drive. But what it did do, it certainly got social media tongues a-wagging just after that episode came out. Rodeo, let's get stuck into number 4 of our top 5 countdown recoveries. This one took place in the Glasshouse Mountains. We had a fantastic idea that we try and get a whole bunch of people together and get rid of as much rubbish out of the Glasshouse Mountains as we possibly could. And it was a huge success. We moved mountains of rubbish out of there. And it was on one of the main access tracks that we found an old burnt out car. It was a real eyesore and it was right on the main track into some of the best tracks in the Glasshouse. So we thought, why don't we get rid of it? The idea being to clear it out of the way and take it to the scrap heap. Nearly worked out really well too. Now, logistically, it was always going to be very difficult to remove that vehicle without a crane and all the associated bits and pieces that most people would use. But we came up with a fantastic idea. We get the car trailer that Jesse owns, we try and winch it onto the car trailer.
It must be a Nissan Patrol, is it? Pulsar. Still a Nissan.
Now, for quite a while, Ruben stood back to the side and watched Sean and I try and get some ropes and winch ropes and pulleys and all sorts of bits and pieces and lift this vehicle up. At which point he said, look guys, I used to be a rigger. I know what I'm doing. Step aside.
I like that we've got our tallest bloke on the roof.
Well, I can't reach, I can throw things at. I'll get up on this bit here. Look, that'll give me enough.
If I get on your shoulders though.
Yeah,
no, that's
work.
enough, that's enough.
That's heaps.
And we just have to lift the front up probably on a 45 and we're good.
We knew when we were beat. We handed the whole thing over to Ruben and he nailed it. But one thing he didn't do was where I came in. You see, the car trailer had to be reversed under the burnt-out car with pinpoint accuracy. It was a Herculean effort. We needed a hero. So I stepped up. I don't do a whole heap of reversing. It's Shauno that does all the reversing, of course, having that massive boat of his and a boat trailer. So when I got behind the wheel, I really did feel the pressure, but I managed to reverse that bad boy within a centimetre. It really was quite impressive. I even impressed myself. Shauno, he was impressed as well. We then lowered that old car down onto the car trailer, ratcheted it down, and in one of the more bizarre recoveries we've ever done, we managed to get all of that junk, plus that car body, out of the Glasshouse Mountains. Well, that worked extremely well. I didn't think it was going to work that well.
Mate, we just had a couple of good heads on the case, I think.
Mostly, I'd like to say it was probably my reversing skills.
I'm
for the majority of
surprised
that.
you were able to reverse that far, to be honest,
Mate,
without your wife.
Never have before. That was pretty cool. One thing you folks did not see, however, young Jesse offered to take the remains of the car out to the junk heap for us and get rid of it. Thanks very much, Jesse, we said, and off he went. What we didn't realise was you actually need a permit to remove old burnt-out vehicles from the bush. Go figure, who knew? The cops pulled Jesse up and they tried to fine him for stealing a vehicle out of the bush. He explained exactly what we were doing and they were very understanding, but they said, mate, you can't just go about doing that. We'll give you a permit, but you've got to get that first. So young Jesse, he nearly got arrested for doing the right thing. Sorry, Jesse. Probably owe you a couple of beers for that one. Right about now, you're probably sitting there watching this thinking, geez, I really need to get myself a winch on the front of my four-wheel drive. Well, you're in luck. Right now, for a very limited time because of limited stock, at 4wheeldrive247.com, we've got a fantastic deal on the Runva 11 XP, which is the exact same winch that Sean and Jock, and of course myself, use all around Australia. There's also a cracking combo deal there where you can get the 11 XP, the Runva, and a set of Max Trax Extremes as well. I've used those bad boys a heap of times, and I tell you what, they'll get you out of just about anywhere. So combine that with the Runva, you can get as bogged as you like and you're going to get yourself home again. But we've got very limited stock of both, so I suggest you get in quick because when it runs out, she'll be out the door. 4wheeldrive247.com, get in quick. All right, let's get back into it. Righto, let's crack into number 3. We're really getting down to the nitty-gritty here. There are some crackers to come. This one took place in Tasmania on a very, very little known track. In fact, I can't even remember the name of the track. We've driven it once before, back in the day. We made it through, but we had to sleep on the track. We broke a couple of snatch straps. We broke some winch cables. It really was an absolute epic to get through it. So we thought, why don't we head back and challenge ourselves a second time? Well, I'll tell you what, a few of us in the convoy, by the end of it, probably thought we were absolutely nuts, and we probably were. As soon as we got onto this track, I could tell it hadn't been driven in years by anything more than a quad. It was tight, trees were over the track, and the mud holes looked like they were as deep as they'd ever been, but undisturbed by a four-wheel drive. And if that doesn't ring alarm bells, well, it probably should. Now, we'd done a few of the bog holes at this point. We'd had some success, mostly failures. All of us had to winch at some point when Ruben started having problems with the clutch in the 79. The worst spot to possibly have clutch problems in Australia. Well, I've been hearing a bit of a noise under the bonnet for about the last maybe 5 minutes, not that long, and it's the rear serpentine belt, of which there's 2 belts. The rear serpentine belt has disintegrated and disappeared on me. So I had no charge going to my battery, and with a lot of winching to go, we had to make a decision, a very hard decision.
Well, things have taken a little bit of a slide south because now Ruben's got almost zero drive. When I say almost zero,
none.
It's got about 1% worth of drive, which is not enough to get through this track.
Sean, for one, hates turning around. He absolutely hates it. I try and avoid it at all costs. But with a 79 with a fading clutch and me with no alternator, we had to make the decision to turn around on this track and get out. And that, my friends, is where the fun began. It turned into one of, if not the most epic retreat we have ever done in the history of 4-wheel drive 24/7. Sean had to tow Ruben almost the entire way out. It was incredible to watch. I managed to get myself through under my own steam for the most part, but when I had to winch, I either had to use Ruben's winch off the back of his vehicle or use mine so sparingly that I could only just get through the bog holes. One thing about that recovery I will never forget is when I got a lump of wood wedged underneath the D-Max in such a way, I simply couldn't get it out. I've never seen anything like it. It would just stay under there no matter how far I drove.
Nope, that damn log is still there. Look at that, will you? It won't budge an inch. Incredible.
We eventually had to connect a winch rope to it and winch it out from underneath the vehicle. Never seen anything like it. I'll probably never see anything like it again.
There we go. You're off! That is the biggest log I've ever seen under a vehicle.
It was getting well into the night by now, with another 50 to 100 metres of nastiness ahead that we all knew we had to winch through. Of course, this is Tasmania, so a light rain to keep everything moist was no surprise. Sean's getting heaps of winch rope ready because nobody wanted to go into that slop.
All the lockers. No, very soft.
Full noise whale and still only just makes it into the bog. So Runva to the rescue.
We good? unhook us and run the winch.
Have a go at this. This bog has required multiple winches for Sooty, which was actively able to drive under its own steam. We were all thinking, how on earth are we going to get two busted four-wheel drive through here?
I'm gonna go one more go, okay?
Righto. Nah, it's something snap, mate.
Yeah, there you go, a busted snatch strap. Back to the run bar.
That's about it. That's good.
Okay, it was my turn. Nearly through, and Ruben is back to being towed by Sean. This turned out to be one heck of a long night. I tell you what, if there's one bit of kit I'd never go four-wheel driving without, it'd be the old run bar.
Then, right when we thought we were home and hosed, we could almost see the exit. I went and did some damage to the actuating arm on the automatic box on the D-Max, which meant couldn't get the old girl into gear. So Shauno had to climb underneath the vehicle every time I wanted to move and select first gear for me, and off I'd go. That's all I had was one gear. I tell you what, adding insult to injury, we had it all that night. Ruben, if you're watching this right now, you'll know exactly what I mean. That track in Tasmania, we've got a score to settle. We're coming back, bigger and better, with a heck of a lot of recovery gear and 16 chainsaws. We'll see you again, Tasmania. Okay, let's get down the pointy end. Number 2 of our top 5 recoveries of recent times. None other than that epic river crossing, the Durack River in the Kimberley. Of course, we were tackling the Umbulgari track in the Kimberley. We were the first group through in a couple of years thanks to COVID. It was very early in the season, just after the wet. The river was still extremely high. And of course, being the first through in a couple of years, the route across the river had all but washed away. We really were just going by feel. It was about as sketchy as it gets. Couple that with the fact that that section of river is still tidal. We tried to do it as best we could on low tide, but we knew high tide was coming. Add to that the fact that the river is full of saltwater crocodiles. You're starting to get the picture? Sketchy as it gets, but one of the most memorable things I've ever done. I got to give a shout out right here to my good mate Shauno. You know that river was of course full of saltwater crocodiles. What does Shauno do? Catches a big barra, fillets it up for tea, nothing wrong with that. But then he goes and throws the barramundi frame right at the entrance to the river crossing, right where I was having to cut that log to get in. There was a barramundi frame in there. Stunk too, it was disgusting. Okay, with the tide coming in, the river flowing as fast as it's ever flown and as high as it's ever been, boulders strewn everywhere, we managed to get each other across. We were using each vehicle in front to winch off and make our way through.
Yes!
With Timbo from Mitts Alloy in front of me, he was supposed to be my winch anchor. Of course though, the rest is history. He got super excited halfway across and just kept going. He didn't stop and wait for me.
You time, baby girl! Yeah, boy, that was sick!
So the plan has changed a little bit. Tim was supposed to stop on that rock bar, but he got so excited.
Sorry, I think I was meant to stop and winch down.
Far out. No, look, we don't blame you, Tim.
What about the plan? Oh, boy! You got me! I know I left you behind, I got carried away!
I tell you what, who needs enemies when you got mates like Timbo? Thanks, buddy. I owe you one for that. No. It was actually hilarious at the time. He was so stoked to get across, no one cared. We managed to get me across, no problems either. That was, though, one of the sketchiest crossings we've ever done. Something you couldn't see on camera was just how hot it was. And of course, the water temperatures up there, they're just as hot as the daytime temperatures. Poor old Shauno, when he was trying to get that winch rope across, you saw him struggling with it. He actually nearly got a little bit crook from heat stroke out there. He went all funny in the head. He's funny in the head to start with, but he went a bit funny in the head from the heat. So despite the fact that we were in that river for 4, maybe 5 hours, all of us were absolutely knackered at the end of it and stinking hot because the river offered absolutely no cooling properties whatsoever. The crossing of the Durack River really wasn't a crossing. We all had to recover at some point through there, and so that's why it makes number 2 on our all-time list of recoveries. Don't try that one at home, folks. Rodeo, can we get a drum roll, please? The number 1 recovery on our top 5 list of the best recoveries we have done in recent times. I wonder if any of you out there have guessed what it might be. I reckon some of you would have. Western side of Cape York. You see, we were up that way in order to do one mission and one mission only. Sean had it in his head that he had to catch the legendary Saratoga. We'd heard of a station that had heaps of them in these freshwater billabongs right out the back of the station. Now, ordinarily, the station owner doesn't go out there until well into the dry. Us being us, we were out there right at the end of the wet season. The water was still everywhere and the ground was like a sponge. But Shauno was hell-bent on getting out there and catching a Saratoga, and I was up for the adventure. So we gave it a crack. To this day, I have never seen a vehicle more bogged than the 79 series owned by Tim from Mitts. Tell you what, it's literally the one scenario where I thought we might have to leave the vehicle there until the dry season. Big problem was out there that the top of the ground was actually quite hard and in some places quite dusty. But when you broke through the crust, which was about, say, that big, it was bottomless and just moist mud, black soil in fact. So as soon as you broke through that, you were stuck. The Mitts 79 is a big rig at the best of times, weighs quite a bit. As soon as he crossed over somebody else's tracks, broke that crust and went down, my goodness, you saw the angle he was on. It was impossible to get him out by any means other than physical labour. One thing you've really got to experience to believe is just how much suction there is in that mud when a vehicle gets stuck down into it. And the only way to break that suction is to lift the vehicle up and then pull it out. Of course, the only way to do that is to use jacks. And the only way we were ever going to use jacks is to get on the shovel and start digging. We must have moved cubic metres of earth that day. On film, that recovery probably took a couple of minutes. In reality, we were on the shovel, on the winches, on the jacks for about 8 hours from memory to get one vehicle out. By the end of it, it was a massive effort from everyone. We used multiple winches, multiple jacks, we used logs, we used max tracks. We actually bent a high lift jack like a pretzel.
Whoa, what's it gonna
There
do?
it goes.
I've never seen that. That's insane.
Well, just bolt that back on the 47.
That's what happens when you use a cheap high lift jack.
Look at that.
Oh my God.
The high lift jack that was on the 40 is a banana now.
Yep.
Yeah, we've never seen that happen.
Never seen that. It happens slowly too.
Just went brrr.
That shows you just how much force was at play there. I've never seen a vehicle so bogged and never had to work so hard to get a vehicle extracted before. And to this day, it is the only time in four-wheel drive 24/7 history that I thought maybe, just maybe, we may have to leave that vehicle there until the dry season. And that is why, folks, it gets our #1 recovery.
Okay, fire away.
Okay, winch when you're ready.
Yes, yes, yes.
When that spring hanger's up,
Once it gets up on this,
game on. You'll be able to
Have a little drive as well, Tim.
You'll be able to drive your own steam.
have a drive! Have a drive, you mad son!
One of the bunny legends!
Oh, look at that!
That's incredible.
Look at this dirt we dug by hand.
That's next level.
That's incredible, mate.
Well done, brother.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done, man.
Well done, boys.
That's good stuff.
Jocko!
Oh,
Oh,
We've done it.
terrifying.
Holy
Look at that. Look at that.
now, Tim, I reckon you get a bigger run up and come through this time. Really hit
Give
it.
it a real go.
Have another go, mate.
Now, it didn't stop after Tim got stuck. The old Runva came out probably another 30 times that trip, with the Maverick camper trailer requiring some very innovative winching to get through the last challenge.
So what do you reckon, folks? Our 5 best recoveries. Is there any recovery out there that you can remember that was better than those 5? Let us know in the comments down below. Or maybe you have been more stuck than us in the past. Maybe you're the resident expert. Let us know in the comments down below. And if you can prove that you've been more stuck than us, tell you what I'll do. I'll chuck it in a Beers in the Shed episode so that everybody out there can have a look. For now though, folks, cheers and thanks for watching our best recoveries, 5 down to 1. Get out there in your 4-wheel drive this weekend and see if you can do better. We'll catch you later.